going into last season recap. I'm just gonna break it down a little bit, and we're just gonna talk about it here a little bit about last season since we're just getting started with this sports section of this podcast. We're gonna look at last season with a few interesting things that happened last season. So first, I'm gonna go into when we look at. I'm gonna focus on what matters, the big boys, the people that came to play.
Oh yeah.
That's the playoff teams. When you look at the playoff teams, the teams that got into the that separated themselves from the other teams
Yeah.
in the NBA, what would you say is your most impressive player and your most impressive team during the playoffs? And it could be more than one.
Yeah, no, I just try to narrow it down, make it easy. For me, I think it's an obvious choice for like the most impressive player, and for me that was Nikola Jokic.
Ooh,
So he was
MVP.
yeah, like he wasn't this like last season's MVP, but he was like previous 2 years MVP, right? So there's a little bit of that pressure, that was coming on him. You're back to back MVP, are you going to win a ring? You kind of like,
Didn't that happen to Giannis?
yeah, it was kind of like the same thing with
Yeah.
Giannis too until he won in like 2021.
Where he was not the MVP
Yeah,
and Jokic was the MVP.
exactly. That was it. So you kind of like won back-to-back MVPs, and then like now you got to show, you got to, you know, make it more than and just the regular season, right? Can you like carry that into the postseason? So for me, it was Jokic for me. The way he played in the postseason, especially like in the regular season, he was good. But I feel like towards the end of the regular season, he kind of like took a step back a bit, I guess, just to kind of like reserve a bit of that energy
Get
going
ready.
into the postseason. You know what I mean? So that kind of like took him back in the MVP voting. That's why Joel won it, in my opinion.
Isn't that a really good strategy though?
It
Because
is
there
because
is
like
a
there's
pressure keeping up with the
the
MVP.
ultimate goal for him now is winning the championship.
He has two
Joel
already.
hasn't won an MVP, so I guess it's fair that he can give it all in the post, like in the regular season. See how much you have left in the in the postseason. But for Jokic, like he's been there, he's done that twice already. So it's like why go for a third when you can like reserve some energy, go into the postseason fresher and all that. So that's just my opinion. That's what I think he did, and for me, he's my most impressive player. Like looking at these numbers, in the playoffs, he in 20 games he averaged 30 points, 13.5 rebounds, 9.5 assists for a center. 9.5
9.5
assists
assists.
is damn impressive. Like that's almost a triple double we're talking about here, right? So like, and then like in the finals, in 5 games he averaged 30.2 points, 14 rebounds, 7.2 assists. So the assists went down a notch, and then he still had like 1.4 steals a game.
Oh,
So still had active hands on defense, and yeah, and he was the finals MVP too. So I feel like that for me, he was my most impressive player, like in this postseason.
yeah, and he was the finals MVP too. He deserves all the accolades that
Oh
come
yeah.
to him. The interesting thing in the playoffs, I remember an interview he did, and they were telling him he was the top one of four players to average about I think 22, 10, and 12.
His numbers were ridiculous,
He was
man. Like
even
I
shocked. He
couldn't.
was like, no, more than four people haven't done that. Like
Yeah,
he just wakes up
exactly.
and he
Yeah.
drops a near triple double and he thinks it happens easily. But I think that was a funny interview. Young man works hard, deserves all he gets, enjoys going back to his horses in Serbia.
In
To the win.
Serbia. Yeah.
So I was happy for him because I thought he was a little underrated because of athleticism a couple of times, and I was like, look at the numbers. If it was easy, you would do it, but
Oh yeah, the
he
numbers speak
actually
for
got it done.
themselves. Yeah.
Under the most impressive player one, before I get you to talk about the most impressive team, which kind of it depends, I would give a shout out player basically to Jimmy Butler, right?
Yeah. Well
For the
deserved too.
fact that they were the eighth seed and he carried, let's be serious, guys, he carried a team that wasn't supposed to be in the finals based on talent. All right. You have him, you have Bam Adebayo, which are the two all stars on the team. But other than
Yeah.
that, the biggest contributors on the team were Max Struz, Gabe Vincent,
Yep.
Caleb Martin,
And they were like all undrafted. Those
Duncan
two.
Robinson.
Yep, undrafted guys.
Most people don't know who these guys are. But
Yeah.
at the end of the day, I thought Jimmy kind of willed them. They all played Miami Heat basketball. So I'm either way, even though they were like an 8th seed and whatever, I think it was impressive getting to the finals. Everybody wants to win it, but I will still look back at this finals and be like the Miami Heat had an impressive run, and I'll give credit to play of Jimmy. a guy that you want to go to war with. That's Jimmy Butler. So
all day.
yeah, next we're gonna go into your most impressive team
Yeah. So I went
in
with
the playoffs.
Jokic. I went with Jokic as my most impressive player, but for me, the most impressive team would be the Miami Heat, where Jimmy Butler plays for.
Okay.
Yeah, which is fair. So they were like the seventh or eighth
Eighth
seed
seed, I
in the
think.
regular season, so they lost their first like playing game
Yep.
to the Hawks,
Yep.
and then so they had to play a second one. They won, so
Yep.
now they had to play. So now they were the eighth seed going into the playoffs, right?
Yeah.
So now they had to play the number one seed, which was the Bucks,
Yeah.
right? So I think for me that's where it all started. Beating the Bucks, nobody saw that coming,
No,
right?
even though Giannis was injured for a game,
Yeah.
the Bucks won a game without Giannis. I
Oh,
don't
yeah.
think they were actually supposed to
So
be
that
still
ended
lose.
in 5.
5 or 6.
Yeah.
So they still handled business,
Oh, yeah,
whether
they did.
Giannis was there or not.
Or not.
And in my opinion, a 1 and an 8 seed, even though Giannis missed the game, they should hold down the fort.
Yeah, exactly. At least
right?
until like make it like take it to like all the way to 7 games. Make
At
it more
least.
interesting. Yeah. But the
Miami
way that,
outplayed them. I don't really make much excuses.
oh
for
yeah,
them.
and there was a play of Jimmy, coming big, making big shots, in back-to-back games, and yeah, they were able to get through that one. So for me, definitely the Heat, coming through that round, going to the next round to play the Knicks. They beat the Knicks in 5 or 6 as well,
so.
and then going into the Eastern Conference Finals against Boston. So now that
We're
was where
up 3.
that was where it got interesting. They were up 3-0 on Boston. And then, Boston came back 3-3, and we thought they were going to make history, but then they didn't. So then the Heat were still able to, win that game and, go into the NBA Finals. So, and actually, I would remember Game 6 of that Eastern Conference Finals was like a lucky shot that changed the whole like series again. The series was done.
That.
Yeah. To me, it was done. Derek White in like 0 point something
2
seconds
seconds.
left.
And there was also a big shot from
A
Miami
putback.
before that.
Yeah, exactly. So that's what extended that series to 7. I thought it would have been done in 6, to be honest. So, but then in Game 7, it wasn't even close because Tatum got injured, and they couldn't keep up, and it was kind of like a blowout for a Game 7, which was kind of weird. So, anyway, so yeah, the Heat for me definitely going into the finals. At that point, I feel like Jimmy was kind of hindered. I don't know if it was like an injury, but he wasn't moving the same. He wasn't being like aggressive enough.
It takes a lot for what he did to get there.
Yeah. So maybe, there was something a bit off about Jimmy there. So they were not like exactly the same team. So going into the finals, playing against Denver, I could see them being like outmatched, like, in terms of like size, physicality, and just, play as a team. I just feel like Denver were the better team. But for Miami to have come from the playing tournament all the way to the NBA finals, for me, that was the most impressive team.
I would totally agree with you about Miami being the most impressive team considering the circumstances. But I would also give a shout out to the NBA champions, which are the Denver Nuggets.
Yeah.
One thing I would say is they deserved it. I've seen this team go through the grind of building, suffering injuries.
Right from like the 2020 bubble, right? When they were in the Western Conference Finals against the Lakers, which they beat this year, by the way, to get to the finals. So, yeah.
Yeah, so I would give them all the credit. I also want to give a shout out to Jamal Murray. I think
comeback player of the year,
impressive.
He got that.
It's really impressive because one thing we forget is when he's healthy, over the course of his not too long career, he has been a special playoff performer.
Too, right?
Yeah, he's been an all-star. Injuries did, and he came back and he was so good. Didn't need so much time to get in. Michael Porter Jr. was healthy. It's huge for the whole team. They were the number 1 seed, so they didn't just walk through the regular season.
Oh, no.
The team
they
was
put in
deep.
the work in the regular season.
The team was deep. Nobody talked about them. The media, you guys know who you are, kept talking about the Los Angeles Lakers and all the popular teams.
They use that as fuel.
And then the Mile High team out there in Colorado was getting the work done. It was getting the work done and being the number 1 seed. But everybody wanted to talk about how the Phoenix Suns were going to win. Of course they won't. The Golden State Warriors were going to win. No, they were horrible. And also, which other team were contenders in the West that before
that was
Denver?
Mostly, though. It was like
it was
Phoenix
mostly
for
people
sure.
And
like
but basically Phoenix and some people were on the Lakers because of LeBron.
Yeah, Lakers, then
insulting the
then
number
Golden
1 seed.
State. Yeah.
insulting the number one seed. And Jokic came and played like the MVP. Jamal Murray played like the all-star that he is.
Yeah.
Michael Porter knocked down the shots as he's supposed to do.
And Eric Gordon too.
Aaron
Having that
Gordon
big
came in
guy.
the trade, played awesome defense, and
Yep.
Bruce Brown,
So, KCP, Jeff Green.
I would say I was really impressed. Most importantly, I think it's underrated when you put in the work to be healthy. When everybody does what they need to do, the depth is good. The management does what they do to give good depth and rest, and everybody do what they have to do to stay healthy. So I was happy for them because of how unfortunate injuries affected them other seasons. I would also give a shout out to the Denver Nuggets for that.